Tomorrow marks 1 year since the Taliban gained control of Kabul, Afghanistan, and the U.S. started its troop withdrawal. In the hours and days that followed, hundreds of thousands of Afghans tried to escape, many of them ending up here in the U.S. About 1,500 of those refugees eventually resettled in Minnesota. Most arrived with the clothes on their backs, facing an uphill battle to acclimate. And here we are 1 year later. Afghanistan has essentially fallen out of the headlines, so we wanted to revisit the resettlement efforts here in Minnesota.
And our Rose Schmidt visited with one of those Afghan refugees today, as well as some who have stepped up to help. Rose?
Well, Kelsey, a year ago, Afghan people faced dangers just trying to get out of their country as the Taliban was descending upon the capital. But other challenges were ahead of them, from language barriers to securing income and housing.
I'm so excited, but it's a new city for me.
A year after she watched her homeland plunged into chaos, Somaya Haidari has a life in Minneapolis where everything is new.
New people, new culture, new weather. But for me, it's not very easy because my family is in Afghanistan. Just me and my sister is here.
Back home in Afghanistan, Somaya was a famous referee and athlete in a type of martial arts known as Muay Thai. So that made her a target, and she and her sister fled the war-torn country, leaving the rest of their family behind.
For me, it's very hard because
August 15th marks a year since Kabul fell to the Taliban, and thousands of people had to escape the only culture they knew. But those still there have seen momentous change.
So since that day, we've seen catastrophe, essentially. We've seen catastrophe for the people of Afghanistan. And most particularly, we've seen catastrophe for the women and girls of Afghanistan.
Fanua Ni Aloin is a professor at U of M's law school. She describes the humanitarian crisis in Afghanistan, where children are dying of malnutrition, the economy has collapsed, and women and children are heavily restricted.
Women have to be accompanied by a male when they go out into public space. And if they are not, if they protest, then we've seen the use of physical force and violence against them.
Afghans who are here in the U.S. are facing different types of challenges, especially housing. The organization Zaka has helped distribute rental assistance to more than 150 Afghan families. But refugees are typically on 6-month leases that are now expiring.
6 months is not enough time for new families to completely restart their life in a new country where there's a new language and everything is an obstacle and a challenge.
Many resettlement agencies also have a 6-month cap of assistance, meaning families could lose access to caseworkers. Zaka is now offering rent subsidies to families to help reduce some of the burden.
And as for Somaya, she tells me she's taking English classes and working at the airport now. She hopes she can get back to her martial arts roots and pick back up her university studies in journalism. Kelsey.
All right. Thank you, Rose.